Welcome. I'm Pipes, and this is Dads Without a Voice. So the topic for this week is a sentimental one, certainly. If you're going through this type of situation and dealing with your feelings and your emotions about being unable to have a relationship with your children, the times do come, especially when you live in the area that they live in, that you're going to have that unexpected encounter. Man, those are tough. And so this week's subject is about having those unexpected encounters, how difficult they are, and about your feelings with regards to those encounters. And certainly during the times between those encounters and the thoughts that go through my mind. So I want to just back up real quick just at the beginning and certainly express to all my viewers that there's enough depression out there with all the COVID, all of the things that are going on in our lives that are negative. The news is constantly negative. It seems like every conversation we have is negative. And that is not what this is supposed to be about. It is a very sensitive and somewhat negative topic. However, I would like to spin it just a little bit, just a little. I don't want to sit here and do tap dances and sing and say that these are the best times of our lives when we're going through these difficult emotional periods. But I do want to express my understanding and my sincere belief that it doesn't have to be completely negative. It is an opportunity to address those feelings and those emotions. It is an opportunity to communicate and conversate. It is an opportunity to cope with those emotions that we as fathers without a voice or dads without a voice deal with in the times when they're strong. And it's hard to have this conversation without it being emotional and without it being somewhat negative. However, at the end of the day, part of coping is to understand that the negativity is not your fault. Your emotions and your feelings are not your fault. And it's not a negative thing to deal with those feelings and to cope with them and to learn how to conversate about them. So I want to move on from that, but I just want to make that statement so we all understand that it's not a negative situation that where our feelings are hurt. There's nothing negative about that. It is a negative connotation to it, I suppose, where you're talking about, it's certainly not cheerful. So those times when we encounter our children unexpectedly, what do you say? What do you do? How do you go about it? I'm not the expert on that, I guarantee you that. However, I have had an encounter or two in the past that did not turn out very well. I don't know if I handled it wrong or if the children handled it wrong. Is there a right and wrong? It's all about emotion. It's all about your emotion. It's all about their emotion. And I don't really think that either one of them is wrong. I do think that there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I think it is all especially from my daughter's point of view or my daughter's situation, I believe it to be their emotions that are driving their decision making and their fear, their uncomfortability. As a child and as a teenager, come on, let's be realistic. We didn't want to deal with anything that was uncomfortable. We stayed completely away from things that were uncomfortable. So I can't sit here and say, oh, my children, are just being mean and nasty, and no, they're being emotional. They're being uncomfortable. And I know that during the unexpected encounter, that they're as emotional, if not more emotional, as uncomfortable, if not more uncomfortable than you are. So how can that be your fault? Now, certainly, there are extremes to that situation. I mean, you don't want to have an encounter with your daughter while you're being arrested by the police. No, that probably wouldn't be good. I'm sure that'd be very uncomfortable and very emotional. I'm talking about a general encounter. I'm talking about an encounter such as I had, seeing my daughter in the parking lot at a supermarket with her mother. Of course I walked up to her. Of course I asked her how she's doing. Of course I tried to talk to her. Of course it failed miserably. And of course she was very uncomfortable, as was I. Of course she didn't know what to say. And I tried to do the talking. And of course I was being a dad. And when you're in one of those uncomfortable encounters, all I know how to do is be a dad. I don't know how to, it's not even that I don't know. I wouldn't. I just would not grovel. I would not beg. I'd be strong. And I believe that my daughter eventually will understand, if she did not understand then, why I try to be strong. I don't, of course, not belligerent and not overreacting, trying to stay calm, trying to measure my words as best as I possibly can, and it failed miserably. I did tell her, I said, I think you're going to regret this situation, and I really need you to think about it. I really need you to think about on this date that we ran into each other, and because our relationship is not there, we had a hard time communicating. And I said it like that mainly so that she would at some point in time have an understanding about how long this situation was going to go on. And along with that unexpected encounter, I had a little bit of a thing yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I was watching the movie Live Free or Die Hard with Bruce Willis. I really don't watch much news anymore. It's too depressing. So I try to entertain myself somehow, and I ended up turning on the Amazon Prime. Hit. No, I don't have sponsors. But if you do want to sponsor, if you do want to sponsor me, www.dadswithoutavoice.com. But anyways, I was happen to watch, Bruce Willis in the movie Live Free, Die Hard, and his he right in the beginning of the movie, of course, his daughter's in a car with her boyfriend, and the boyfriend's going a little bit farther than she wants, and she says no, and all of a sudden Bruce Willis, the father, what's his name, John McClane, Detective McClane, opens the door and pulls the kid out, and then his daughter gets out of the car and starts yelling at him why he's there, and doesn't even call him call him Dad. She calls him John. And he reminds her, that's Dad to you. And she calls herself, by the last name of her mother's maiden name, Gennaro, rather than her real name, which would have been McClane. And even though I saw Bruce Willis, who, he's a decent actor, I wouldn't put him up there and the Oscar-winning category. Not that I don't love you, Bruce, okay? I'm just not saying the acting is is top notch. I mean, certainly if you watch movies like The Revenant, you can understand there's some serious acting done there. But you could see how Bruce, in his character, was trying to portray his helplessness. The one thing that I think, and I try to express to my viewers and to myself, is it's very tough to really understand that helplessness unless you're really, really, really going through it. And in that particular movie, you could see it was bothering the character of John McClane, and he was just taken back at the fact that his daughter was calling herself by another name other than her real name, which was his surname. So why was she doing that? Why is that portrayed in a movie like that? Because it's real. So back in the day when I actually did watch that movie when it was out first, I didn't have this problem. I didn't have this issue. So I didn't think much of it. When I watched it this time, it hit home like a rock, like a baseball bat. No, I didn't go into being very depressed about it. However, I did go into thinking about it, and it made me think about the pain that it must feel, the helplessness that you must feel when your child changes their last name to something other than their birth name, which was your surname. And that happened to my brother. I didn't understand it. In episode 1, I went into length about my brother's situation where he went through that estrangement from his daughter. She had changed her last name to the maiden name of her mother and gave up the surname of him. And I didn't really understand that pain that he felt. I do now. And I pray every day that that doesn't happen to me with my 3 daughters. I pray that it doesn't. I think right now the only satisfaction I have to hope that that doesn't happen is that they're proud of their last name. Their last name, Piper, is known throughout the school, known throughout the community. I was a volunteer fireman. I was a coach of their softball team. So the community knows the last name. So I'm hoping that there's some pride in there. I'm hoping that the first 14 years of my twins' daughters' lives, 14 and a half years, that they had some pride of having that last name. And hopefully that they don't make that wrong decision to change their last name. And why would they change it to begin with? Is it out of spite? I don't think so. I think it's out of emotion. And I do think it's a little bit out of the desire to fit in. And when they feel fit in, they feel more comfortable. So my ex-wife still has my last name. She is engaged, so I don't know how long that's going to last, whether she's going to revert to her maiden name or the hyphen name. And that's when it really scares me. That's when it really scares me that is certainly a possibility. Why does it hurt? Why does it hurt when your child decides to change their last name? Well, as a man, I'm going to tell you that I'm proud to have my children have my last name. I'm proud that they carry it and that my last name would hopefully go on in the future. But more so, it's more of a family relationship thing. It's more of a situation where we want to be able to feel that our children love us and are proud of their last name. I've always been kind of a guy who's proud of my last name. I'm a kind of guy who's, when you call buying a jersey for a team player, yeah, I want you to you want to support the Buffalo Bills? Great. Support the Buffalo Bills. But I don't believe in buying a jersey with someone else's last name on it. I think you should be proud of your own last name. I think that if you want to buy a Buffalo Bills jersey, then buy one and put your last name on it. It's very easily done. Can be done. Be proud of yourself while you support your team. Players come and go. Teams hopefully last for a longer time. And I don't think you should ever have someone else's last name on your back other than your own. Might be a little bit closed-minded. I'll take that, but I'll also say that in response to that we only have so many few things in our lives to be proud of. And if you're going to be proud of something, be proud of yourself. And if you're not proud of yourself, then you got some work to do. You should be proud of your last name. You should be proud of your heritage. You should be proud that you are carrying on a legacy that was created long before you were on this planet. So those difficult encounters, unexpected encounters, I'll tell you the story of the most painful one for me, and I think I touched on it in the first episode, but certainly I'll explain it now. I went to the gymnasium to watch my twins play volleyball. I was there probably about 10 to 15 minutes. I noticed the two girls talking back and forth, acknowledging to each other that I was there, but not acknowledging it to me. I tried cheering them on, as I normally did. Eventually, one of my twin daughters ran off the court crying. A few minutes after that, my other twin daughter ran off the court crying. Why? I did nothing to them. I was not physically abusive or mentally abusive to my children. But I, in my mind, knew that they had some type of guilt, some type of awkward feeling, some type of emotion that prevents them as teenagers from confronting that guilt, from confronting those feelings and trying to rectify it. In my logical mind, I sit back and go, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand as a teenager being put into a pressure situation and folding and crumbling like a brick and running away. And it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that they did that. It certainly shocked me at the time. I was taken back. I was, again, I try to handle very high pressure situations well. I've been in many high pressure situations, not ones like that, but certainly have been in many pressure situations. So I did what I thought I needed to do to maintain my control. And certainly, being that it was at the high school. I'm a dad, I'm a male, and men losing their control in a high school in any way, shape, or form is never going to have a good result. Period. Don't matter how much you care, don't matter how much you want to care. If you lose control in a high school or a school setting or around other people like that, as a man, you know and I know this society does not allow that. You will be strung up and paraded and cuffed, and if you don't end up having a stay-away order. So I did what best I could at that time, and I controlled myself, tried to address the situation to no avail, was asked to leave the school. I did so. They still called the police on me, even though I never lost control. And then I had to deal with the repercussion of it. In fact, that would be the last day that one of my twins texted to me. And what she said was, I texted to her, I said, that hurt. And you know what she texted back to me? Well, I told you it was going to happen. Okay. And I'm like, what do you mean you told me it was going to happen? I didn't expect that to happen. But if you told me it was going to happen, of course I texted back saying, I don't understand what I did. I mean, maybe I'm trying to have an adult conversation with a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old at the time, high school student. But I really still don't know what I've done wrong. And reflecting back on the movie I saw with Bruce Willis, he said the same thing, kind of, he's like, what did I do? What's going on? Why don't you talk to me? Let's have a talk. And she shut him down. Now, of course, as the movie goes on, it's part of the storyline that, Bruce saves the day and his daughter says, oh, I'm a McClane again. And is it really that simple or that dramatic? Does it have to be that dramatic to solve this situation? I don't know. If it takes something dramatic to solve it, let's get it on. Let's get it going and let's get it over with, because I need some resolution to it somewhere. I hope it comes sooner than later. But I truly understand that in a teenager's mind, confrontation of their feelings, putting themselves in awkward situations knowingly, ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. I highly doubt my daughters are just going to one day text me and say, Dad, I love you, I'm sorry. I pray for it. I pray for the opportunity for them to reach out to me. I will continue to reach out to them. And I truly understand this time of year being Christmas time with all the added pressures of Christmas time. Not so much for children, I don't think. I don't think Christmas time for me as a child was extremely stressful. I don't remember it to be. It was a little bit more exciting and, just kind of something that was going on, kind of hanging back, allowing it to happen, hoping that I got a gift that I really wanted, being jealous of my other brothers and sisters getting gifts that I wanted, and so I go back to the situation with my brother, and unfortunately his daughter did change her name to her mother's maiden name, and that hurt him. That hurt him real bad. And I didn't understand that, and I'm sorry. I understand it now more. I don't fully understand it because hopefully it won't happen to me and I won't have to deal with that pain or that helpless feeling. I have plenty of helplessness now. But I do hope that he understands that it may have taken me have to walk in the same shoes, but I understand what he went through more and more every day, and I see how strong he is as a person. And I pray that I'll be that strong throughout this ordeal. And I pray that you will be that strong as you deal through your ordeal and you learn how to cope with it. When I'm talking about coping, I'm talking about dealing with it. I'm talking about how do we do that? I'm finding more and more and more it's about talking about it. It seems like in the first few episodes, as I was going through this process of discussing this situation with you, my viewers, and myself, it was on my mind 24/7. It really was. To a point where when I got confronted with a situation 2 weeks ago, I couldn't even come online and discuss it with you. I was kind of embarrassed, but I was more angered and not in control of my emotions, so coping was very difficult. And I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to have difficult times of coping when your feelings comes in waves. There's going to be times when your feelings are much more powerful than others. There's going to be times when you're going to be able to put it out of your mind, or at least distract your mind and keep your mind working on something else other than thinking about your estrangement from your children. There's going to be times when dealing with your emotions as a man, as a dad, that you have to make choices. You have to make choices about what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're saying it. What do you look like when you say it? What's your body language? What's your tone? Scary, isn't it? There's so much to think about. All I want to say is I love you and I support you and I want to give you a kiss goodnight when I can. It's tough. To make a correlation about your feelings of helplessness and dealing with that situation, I guess you could correlate it with not having a good relationship with someone else that you love who's not your child. Okay, so maybe you have a significant other that you still are in love with. Or you have a girlfriend that you broke up with, unfortunately, and you're still in love with her. And you feel helpless when that person doesn't reach back out to you when you try reaching out to that person. So the feeling of helplessness is not unknown. It obviously is pretty well known. It's written in a movie, for God's sakes. It's actually shown on big screen televisions how a dad feels helpless when his child is estranging him and not talking nice about him. Gosh, I hope one day my children talk nice about me again. I have to assume that they're not talking so nice about me now because obviously they don't relate with me, so I can't even understand that. Unexpected meetings. They hit you like a rock. I don't know if you have to sit down and prepare for that meeting. Have something written up. Here's what I'm going to say. Hi, how are you? Do I talk good, teenager? Do I talk good enough for you to talk to me? Do I cry? Do I hug her? Do I, try to give her space? I don't know. I don't know what to do. I suppose when that unintentional meeting happens, you're going to wing it as you can. But all along, I'm going to be the dad that I am. I'm going to try to show her that I love her. And I'm going to try to communicate that I'd like to start our relationship again. Even if it's in some way, shape, or form of, hey, I miss you. I hope that you'll reach out to me so we can start talking again. Even if I just put it in her mind just a little bit. That's why I keep trying to text my daughters and try to reach out to them so that at least there's a little something that may trigger that opportunity for that conversation. You know, a part of me wants them to have a bad situation at their house so that it'll force them to reach out to me. Isn't that sad? I mean, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want them to have an unhappy life. I want them to be happy all the time. I want them to be supported all the time. I hope that their mother and her fiance are taking care of my children every day and meeting their needs every day. But I can't help but express to you, my viewers, and to myself that there is a part of me that says, man, you know, can't something bad happen so these children will reach out to their dad for help? Or reach out to dad for, you know, for assistance? You know, isn't that when children reach out to their parent is when they need something? So I kind of feel a little bit, you know, guilty, you know, not wanting anything horrible to happen. Come on, let's be realistic, folks. I mean, this is not a conversation about, you know, horrible things happening. This is a conversation about reality. And certainly, I do not want anything bad to happen to any of my children or their mother. But I can't help but tell you that there's a little part of me that just wants that little bit of a kickstart somewhere. Maybe just a bad argument or something, or, you know, they didn't get what they wanted and now they're mad enough to call dad and ask me for it, you know? But I digress. I don't want to go into that negative, you know, ex-bashing mode, and I've told you that a million times. So we'll go back to, you know, what my brother talked to me about and how he said he was always trying to make that contact, although during his time he didn't have as much, you know, cell phone usage and stuff. It was a few years ago. I know we had cell phones back then, but he did say that he had hoped that he would have texted to her or tried to contact her a little bit more often. And talking to other folks that have gone through this situation, I've heard the same thing. So I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. But I think I always got to sit back and plan for that unexpected encounter in some way, shape, or form. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. I have to imagine, I mean, this planet, even though this planet is so big, you and I both know this planet is so small. And that encounter is going to happen when I least expect it and when they least expect it. Certainly the COVID thing has been, you know, probably minimizing that chance a lot because obviously not everybody's out and about like they normally would be. So, excuse me. So going to the mall, let's say, you know, going shopping in the mall, you know, my daughters are, you know, they may be going to the mall, they, you know, may not be, but the chances of running into them in the mall is probably slimmer now than it would normally be. Running into them in the parking lot at the supermarket, same thing. I mean, I really don't go to the supermarket. I don't go to the mall anymore. I have no reason to. So those unexpected encounters are slimmer now than probably ever. So I guess I hope that I could sit back and plan for them in some way, shape, or form. You know, what am I going to say to my youngest daughters? You know, she's 14 years old. she's got so many different emotions and hormones going on. What am I going to say to her? I don't know. If you have any good suggestions, go to dadswithoutavoice.com and click on the Contact Us page. Put in your information and put in the story or your suggestion to me so I can get it and think about that and possibly talk about it. www.dadswithoutavoice.com. And hopefully with some opportunity in the future, I'll be prepared. I highly doubt it, but I'll try. I certainly will try. And with the holidays coming up, you know, it's I assume next week is Christmas week, and I assume that the topic is going to be children, you know, dads without a voice on holidays. And I've been thinking about that as well. You know, my daughters have been estranged from me for a year and a half, just about. And I don't know what to do about buying gifts for them. Now, I've had people tell me that I should buy gifts and wrap them up and just drop them off at the house. You know, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know what's right or wrong anymore. I really don't. All I know is the emptiness that I feel inside when I think about my daughters and that I can't talk to them. I don't care if I ever really get a gift, but I'll tell you those little paper ties that I got were awesome. Were awesome, incredible. My daughters didn't have to get me a lot. I never taught them to. But when they did, and they did something nice, for, something that they did, I think a paper tie on a yarn string meant more to me than many other gifts I've ever received throughout my life. Yeah, Christmas is coming up next week, isn't it? It's Christmas time. I don't even have my tree up. I don't have my house decorated. I don't have no enthusiasm for it. Christmas to me is about children. Now, if I didn't have any children, I suppose I would be directing my Christmas spirit to my significant other. If I didn't have a significant other, I suppose I'd be directing my Christmas spirit to my family. But to me, after having children, Christmas to me is about the children. So I don't have any motivation or desire to put the Christmas tree up and decorate it. I didn't put it up last year. I didn't put it up this year. I always put up lights around my living room, put the stockings on the credenza. I didn't do that last year. I ain't doing it this year. Why? Because I don't have that kind of Christmas spirit in me without my daughters. That's helplessness. Especially a guy who's always been very Christmas oriented. Even when I was single, when I was real young, 18, 19, 20 in college, I always had a Christmas tree up. I always had it decorated. I always celebrated with the old eggnog, if that's what you want to call it. I didn't call it eggnog, that's for sure. But, you know, I always did. I always had a Christmas tree. Most of the time, I always had a live Christmas tree. I used to go out with my daughters and cut down a Christmas tree every year just because that was the thing I wanted. That was the tradition I wanted to set with them. Then when, after the divorce, you know, I kind of got away from the live tree and went with the fake tree. And but I still tried to keep other traditions going with them while opening up gifts on Christmas morning or doing something special on Christmas Eve. But I just don't have that Christmas spirit in me without my girls. So it's kind of tough for me to confront those feelings. And unfortunately, even though I have pictures of my daughters up around my living room in the house, of course, I just think a Christmas tree would be so depressing to me in my living room. Is that wrong? Would you? And if you do, are you able to confront with it? Are you able to cope with it on a daily basis? I loved putting lights on the tree. I loved having my daughters decorate the tree and handing them the ornaments as they put them on the tree every year. I don't know what to do about that. I suppose at some point I'm going to have to break that and confront that feeling and cope with it and put the tree up. Because I do love Christmas. I am a religious person. I am a believer. I am a believer in Christ. And whether we want to feel Christmas is Christ's birthday or not, at the end of the day, I want to feel that it is. And I do want to confront that feeling. I just don't know if I'm ready for it yet. And if that's okay with you, I'm probably not going to do it again this year. But you know what? I'm going to be thinking about it between now and next week when I have this podcast again. I guarantee you that. And I'll be sure to inform you of my final decision on that. But I'll tell you, it's just talking to you right now, I just feel sometimes how ridiculous that is. And how numbing and how it freezes you when you feel helpless like that, and you do want to stay away from the things that remind you or make it painful. I get it. Maybe that unexpected encounter happens on Christmas. Wouldn't that be a dream? Maybe that unexpected encounter happens the day before Christmas, and I'm not ready for it. I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case that I'm not ready. I'm sure I'm not going to be. I don't think I will be. But I am prepared to accept my children into my life at any moment, at any time. And I'll do whatever it takes when I have that moment in time to try to allow that opportunity to grow into a relationship with those children. It's difficult to maintain relationships, isn't it? You know, there's so much pressure. Pressure, society, pressure. You got to deal with that pressure. That unexpected encounter is going to come up one of these days, and that pressure that I put on myself to get ready for it is all going to go out the window because I'm not going to be ready either way. Go figure, right? Can you imagine? That's why it's called unexpected. Now, if you're happen to be able to create an expected encounter, you know, by maybe following them around and sneaking behind bushes and popping out in a certain situation, like good old Bruce Willis did there, Mr. John McClane, the character, popped out and just opened the door and, hi, daughter, here you are, here's your dad. Why don't you talk to me? I don't know. I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be one of those guys that's hiding. I'm too proud. Is that wrong? Am I not supposed to be proud of who I am? Proud to be the father, the dad of those children? You're damn right I am. You're damn right I'm not going to put myself into a situation where I'm peering from behind a bush to try to see my daughters. I don't want to ruin their lives or put them into that situation where I force them into having to deal with that situation. So I'm at a crossroads with that. I talk to my brother, I say, Daryl, do I go to the sports event? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, the last time I tried that, they ran off the court crying. And the school thought I was this big mean daddy and called the police. I mean, how ridiculous was that? Just absolutely ridiculous and absolutely uncalled for. I never lost control. I never started screaming. I never did anything. But because they were upset, and I'm a man, I'm out the door. God bless America. Even though I have every legal right to be there, every legal right to talk to my own children, I'm the bad guy because my daughters were upset. Again, I don't want to go off into that negativity. But when we're talking about that unexpected encounter, it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. There's 3 girls, 1 dad, and we all have lives. And none of us are going to be, I assume, stuck to the sofa for the rest of our lives. I have to assume one of us has to go out for food, and 2 of us have to go out for food, or 2 of us have to go for entertainment and run into each other somewhere. Do I want to force that issue? I don't know. I think I should. I think I constantly have to be the adult in the room. I think I have to be the person that's going to try to start that conversation, no matter what I got to do it. I mean, I just don't want to be in a situation where I push them off farther. That's my fear. My fear is I make an unexpected encounter that they didn't agree to, and it pushes them off farther from me as opposed to bringing them closer. You know what I'm talking about. And if you've been through these situations, or if you're going through this situation, and for God's sakes, if you're going to go through this situation, it's not an easy decision either way. I would love to know the schedule of my daughters, but I don't. I don't have communication with my daughters. I don't have communication with their mom. The only thing I can do at this point is use the school as a tool to find out their schedules, which I know their school schedules, obviously right now with COVID going on, everything's against the wall. Everything's just freaking crazy. It almost looks like we're going to go into the red zone in this area anytime soon. So, I mean, right now, I don't even know if I want to push the situation to intensify their feelings and push them farther away. Right? You know what I'm saying? That's the helpless part. We've talked about it before. I'm a doer. I want to accomplish things. I want to get this situation solved. However, it's not all about me, is it? When you're a teenager, we all know we think about what's good for us. We have tough emotional situations. We avoid them like the plague. But we do it as adults too, of course. But as adults, we learn that we have to confront those emotions. We have to confront the effect of those emotions, or we may end up putting ourselves into a deeper situation, as we discussed before, the line between depression and helplessness. I always kind of put that line between depression and helplessness along the line of hope, where, in my opinion, and Steve, you can tell me this is true or not true, in my opinion, depression is more along the lines of not having hope, or not understanding hope, or not believing in hope. Whereas in helplessness, we actually have hope as helpless dads. We actually do feel, or I at least I do, I would believe most in the audience do, that your feeling of helplessness is contained by the feeling of hope. Right? Because that helplessness could grow and grow and grow, but the hope is what contains it into something you could cope with, something that doesn't consume you, okay? Because you have hope. Hope, right? To be or not to be, right? There's Shakespeare. To have the unexpected encounter or the planned encounter. I guess it's all relative. It'll be interesting to see what my options are as time unfolds. If I have that opportunity to have that planned encounter with a understanding of how it's going to happen before it happens, I kind of would like to know the answer before I do the practice, if that makes any sense. Most of your best lawyers, they ask a question knowing what the answer is supposed to be, right? Never ask a question unless you know the answer. We'll never plan a planned encounter without knowing the outcome. Okay? That would be a rule I probably would set for myself in this type of situation. I do not want to plan an encounter with any one of my 3 children and not know what the outcome is. I did that before and it failed miserably. I don't want that to happen again, and maybe that's certainly driving my fear of that planned encounter, because I can't properly plan it, because the last time I did it, I got thrown into the weeds, kicked 10 billion times, and felt like I couldn't get up. It's that helpless feeling of when your children are estranged from you, see you, and walk away. Right? That planned encounter, I don't want that planned encounter to be the same thing. Now, the unexpected encounter, it's going to happen. I certainly hope that I'm prepared for it. I know I won't be. But in my mind, talking with you, you listening to me, you talking to me, hopefully when that opportunity comes along, I'll know what to say. And maybe with some prayers to the good Lord above and his son Jesus, I could certainly say the right things that hit home and get that relationship rolling again. I digress. Let's just take a little bit of a brief exercise here of go to dadswithoutavoice.com. Click on the menu, go to Contact Us, put your information in there, and become part of this conversation, because I need your help, and I hope you need my help. Because together we're stronger. We certainly are. Good old Bruce Willis, he may not have to have dealt with that. Maybe he did. Bruce, if you ever see this, maybe you can check in with me and tell me if you have dealt with the same thing with your children. I don't even know if he has children. I assume he does. Wasn't he married with Demi Moore and all that stuff? And I think he had children, but I'm not a big guy to follow stars and stuff like that. I don't worship anybody but my family and the Lord above and his son Jesus. But at the end of the day, Bruce, if you're out there, I never said you were a bad actor. I've watched many of your movies, and I think the cameos that you played in the Expendables series was funny. It's great. I watched the Expendables too. See, I'm watching a lot of movies lately, so the Expendables 2, there, Bruce was in that as well. He was kind of cool in that one. So But if you ever had an issue with your estrangement with your children or someone you love, Bruce, reach out to me. Go to dadswithoutavoice.com. Click on Contact Us and give me your information, and I'll get back to you. We're running out of time here. We got about 5 minutes left on this podcast this week, so let's try to lighten the tone a little bit. I think about my daughters, and I pray that they're happy. I truly pray that they go to bed every night well fed, well comforted, and enjoy every moment they have as being a child. Because at the end of the day, all of us adults understand that we were only truly free when we were children. When we were children and didn't have the responsibilities of life, we were truly free. We didn't feel it because we didn't understand it. And maybe that's part of the process. But I'll tell you, I never felt more free in my life than when I was at home with my parents and my brothers and sisters. So I hope that my children can enjoy their freedom. I hope that my children pray. I hope my children have respect. I hope my children have caring for each other. And above all, I hope my children speak well of me. Because I am Pipes. And I am a dad without a voice. And I love them. So, with that, I thank you for listening. You have a wonderful week. And don't think about this as being a depressive situation. Think about this as being something that we deal with and we cope with, and it is part of us. It's not something that has to consume us, but it is something we have to live with. And it's just like any other impediment in life that people deal with every day, whether it's as severe as a loss of a limb, a loss of a senses such as eyesight or hearing, a loss of a person, a loved one. There are impediments that people must deal with every day. And they have to learn how to cope with it just as well as you and I do. Have to cope with this pain. And we will. We will cope with it. We will look forward to that unexpected and or planned encounter. We hope that we'll be prepared for it mentally, physically, emotionally. We won't be. We know it. But anytime you prepare yourself for something and practice and train yourself, you're just going to kick back to your training when you have that opportunity. So let's start working more on training ourselves to have that conversation. I'm Pipes. Thank you for being here. And you, Dad, do, will, and always will have a voice. Good night. Awkward time while I click on stop streaming.